Hey everybody, we are live on Facebook Friday, Nonprofit Accidental Techie Wisdom Time with Maureen Waldioff. Out here, I just had to run around and close my windows because my neighbors started mowing their lawn. So if I'm a little disheveled, that's exactly why. Today we're going to talk about ghosting, and I don't care who you are, whether you're a CEO or a job applicant at a nonprofit organization, we've all experienced ghosting, and it's not comfortable. I'm here to tell you. And more of the time, people are sharing experiences about being ghosted, and it's happening to me more frequently too. So I spent a little bit of time trying to figure out exactly what was going on here. We're going to dig into it and get some tips to help you stop ghosting people in any scenario. There's 4 or 5 easy tips that I've got for you this afternoon that will help you stop this habit. It's pretty easy to do. Before we get into the ghosting stoppage part, I want to just let you know 2 things. The first is that we're in August, and that means in just a couple of weeks, on August 20th, I'm going to be doing a very popular training of mine all about how to evaluate and buy fundraising software for the Philanthropy Partners of the Cape and Islands located out here in Hyannis, Massachusetts. So if you're out on the Cape, or you're part of the South Shore, or you're on vacation out here and you're trying to figure out which fundraising system you should buy to replace the one that you have and don't like, that might be a really good use of your time. So you can take a look. I'll put the link when we're done with the video so you can check out the event information, and hopefully I can see you there. And secondly, I'm going to be launching a new version of my website this month. So I'm like up to here in communicating with the web developer and reorganizing my resources and content. So you can find my site at meetmaureen.com, and I will let you know when the brand new version is ready for you to see. You can certainly go there now. It's a pretty good site. But it's going to be even better in just a few weeks. So, okay, because I'm a nerd. Ready? Let's get in the mood. It's a fun song. It's not a fun experience to be ghosted. I don't know how much of this I can play without infringing on copyright. So I'm going to stop in just a second. Right, Ghostbusters. We got to stop this behavior. It's bad. It's a big deal. The term ghosting kind of started on dating sites where somebody would connect with you. You'd have a lot of emails or a lot of texts, a lot of communication, and then poof, they would vanish with no explanation. And it's spread into just about every area of our lives. People flaking out and not getting back to you is nothing new. And sometimes there's a really good reason for it, like I was on vacation, or your email went to the bottom of my inbox and I'm really late replying to you. That's not what I'm talking about here. I am really talking about ghosting on purpose. And I really wanted to find out why. Like, what's the deal? Why would someone ghost someone else when they don't want it to happen to them? Nobody wants to be ghosted. And this is one of those scenarios where I don't want it, but I'm doing it to other people. And that's not a good vibe necessarily. And this relates to technology because it's all about people. We're not talking about software or apps or processes or demos or any of that noise today. We're just talking about people dealing with other people. You can have all the tech in the world, you still have to have unpleasant conversations with people sometimes. So what's underneath ghosting is really that people are avoiding the experience of rejecting someone. Even though the ghosting is actually communicating that rejection. Rejecting people is uncomfortable. Giving bad news to somebody is no fun. And often we're not really equipped to do anything with it. So I want to talk about, the moments where we say, that's not comfortable for me, and frankly, I'd just rather not. Thank you very much. I'm not going to get into it with you. I'm just going to hope that you take the hint. Being ghosted under any circumstances causes social rejection. This is like a real thing. I don't know if it's a syndrome or not, but social rejection is an experience that actually follows the same pain pathways that physical pain follows in our brains. And there are studies out there that say that if you're experiencing pain of social rejection, you can take an analgesic and you'll feel better because even though it's not like ow my arm, it's ow my soul sometimes. The pain pathways are exactly the same. Our brain doesn't really know the difference in processing those feelings from a feeling of physical pain as opposed to an existential pain, I guess. Ghosting someone actually makes them feel worse than if you had just rejected them outright in the first place. So if that's the story that you're telling yourself to avoid rejecting somebody, you can just throw that story away because you're actually rejecting them in a more painful way than if you actually communicated the rejection to them. Why is this? Why is this so painful? And what's up with this social rejection syndrome? Staying connected to other people is part of our evolution as a species. It's a human survival skill. Our brains have this social monitoring system that uses things like mood, our own mood and the mood of others, visual and audio cues, and environmental cues to coach us how to respond situationally. But when you get ghosted, there's no closure. There's nothing for you to respond to. It's just silence, radio silence. Hi, Ben. I'm glad that you're here. Professionals like us, we've been ghosted. So you're really not doing it right. You're really causing bigger triggers for somebody by ghosting them than if you just rejected them kindly and succinctly. And if you've been ghosted, the thing that I really want you to take home from today's Facebook Live is that it says way more about the person who's ghosting you than it does about you. Really, let that sink in for a minute. Jane ghosts me. I get all, kerfluffled, and I get very into my own head, thinking about what's wrong with me. What did I do? What did I say? There must be something I'm not picking up on that's causing Jane not to get a hold of me or not to answer my emails or my phone calls. Legitimate ones, not like spammy business outreach, but truly like in the middle of a dialogue on email, somebody goes quiet. Says way more about Jane than it does about me. So I want you to remember that because it does feel pretty crappy. And I totally get it. I've been doing work in the world for a very long time, and I've had to give my share of bad news. I don't like it, but it's part of my job, and it's part of kind of the code of behavior in society, professional society. Just because we have Instagram, just because we can ghost people through more channels than we ever could before, doesn't mean we should. So I've got 4 tips for you. If you have ghosted someone, or you're sitting on a reply and hoping that if you just kick that down the road a few weeks, person's going to go away, I've got 4 tips to help you take the high road and do what needs to be done, which is reject somebody, but do it with kindness. Do it with professionalism. Do it with intent. So here's my golden rules for giving bad news over any channel whatsoever. The first is to prepare ahead of time, right? If you're sending an email saying we're not going to work with you or you didn't get the job, it's really easy to kind of wordsmith yourself. But if you're doing it over video or over chat or in a room with somebody, take 5 minutes and just write out the things you were going to say. Pretend that you're actually writing an email to that person. Dear Maureen, I really liked your proposal. We're not going to work with you. Here's why. Get it ready to go, and that will ratchet down your own state of discomfort. So that's number one, get prepped. Number two is to be upfront and compassionate at the same time. Tell it like it is. I'm not going to work with you because you didn't get the job because. Close that loop for someone. Give them a reason. Even if you had to make up the reason. Let's imagine that you were going to work with me and then you suddenly went radio silent. You started ghosting me. What I may not know is that a couple of people have quit on your team, or maybe your boss pulled the budget for this project and you don't know really how to tell me that. Tell me that. Be candid. That's how we build trusting relationships with each other. And that's how we make sure that our planning and our people and our processes and our tech are all working well together. The oil of lubrication, hey Kathy, glad to see you here. The oil of lubrication for all of that stuff is communication. Should be the job number one. So be upfront and compassionate. Number three is thank them for their time. If someone has applied for a job, has interviewed once, twice, 17 times, has talked with you about a project, has put a proposal together, you've had some interviews, they've done a presentation, whatever, just thank them. They put some time in too. It wasn't just your time, it was their time. And it's cool to name that, even if you're rejecting them after they've spent that time. It's totally a normal scenario. And this is my most important one, number four. Don't burn any bridges with your ghosting. We are in a very connected, very small world, we nonprofit accidental techies. And I cannot tell you how many times I have dealt with person A at organization one, and a year and a half later, they pop up with an organization that I'm already working with at organization two. And there's some weird feelings if there have not been good closure moments, or if things just didn't work out nicely for one way or the other. You're going to bump into that person again if you've ghosted them. I almost guarantee it that somehow, someday, in some way, maybe on LinkedIn, maybe at a conference, maybe across a table at a meeting, you're going to bump into somebody that you didn't really end things with well. And nobody needs that, right? Life is hard and harried and a little bit of a hassle. So do it right. Treat people like you want to be treated and follow those 4 rules. Prepare ahead of time, be upfront and compassionate, thank people for their time, and don't burn any bridges because it could bite you later. So let's imagine that Jane, this imaginary person that I was just talking about, was giving me bad news, right? She had to buck up a little bit and send me a note that was going to reject me. I'm not going to work with her on this project. Whether we've talked together once or 10 times about the project, all Jane needs to do is send a less than 40-word email message, and I counted it. So it's at 37 words. And here's what that email might say. Hi, Maureen. Thanks for the proposal. It's clear you understood our needs, but we're going in another direction. It was nice to meet you, and I appreciate the time you put in. With thanks, Jane. You can do that. You can say that. If you feel like you need to practice that, send me an email or ping me and send me a message here on Facebook. I would be happy to spend 5 minutes or so practicing with you. But you got to do it. Just letting people roll on with their lives, professional lives, with lack of closure isn't a good thing to be doing in the world, especially in the nonprofit world where we really are for purpose or purpose-driven. Treat people with purpose, and you'll find that that really comes back to you 1,000-fold. Super, super important. So I hope that the short little Facebook Live today about ghosting was useful for you. Spread it around. I'm not going to suggest that you send this video to someone who has ghosted you, although a colleague of mine that I was talking with this topic about the other day said, oh, this would be really great for everybody who's been ghosted to actually send a link to this video to them. Like, hint, hint, thought you might find this helpful. And it is hard and it is uncomfortable for everyone. But remember, the right thing to do is to let somebody know what the deal is. If you don't want someone to do it to you, try your darndest not to do it to somebody else. That sounds a little preachy. That's not usually my vibe, but I'm sort of feeling that way because everybody's having this experience, and until everybody, or at least a bunch of us, decide we're going to stop it, stop doing it, take the high road, let people know what's going on, spend those 5 minutes, it's just going to get worse. So I want everyone who's watching this, whenever and wherever, to take this little nonprofit accidental techie pledge with me that the next time you are tempted to ghost someone, you stop and you straighten up your spine a little bit and you give them that bad news, even if it's a rejection. It's much better for them and it's much better for you. You can just be the messenger. Most people aren't going to flip out on you. And I wonder, if part of what we fear, in addition to not wanting to reject somebody, is that we don't want blowback. We don't want somebody saying, but I spent 17 hours with you thinking about that project, or, but you flew me in to your office to do an interview with your board. And now, I mean, yeah, some people might fly off the handle. They might share how they're feeling in a way that's a little bit more heated than others, but it's still better because you did your part. You acted like a professional and you did your part. You did not leave them with the mystery that would never be solved, because they're going to tell themselves their own story about it, and they should really have the accurate story, and that comes from you. So that's our little ghosting moment today. Next week's topic, I shared this around yesterday, Wealth Engine, which is a wealth screening tool that lots of fundraising folks use, just released this awesome report on millennial giving. Millennial? Did someone say millennial? Everyone that I work with and everybody that I talk to is trying to figure out how to engage this generational group of people who are of giving age, and maybe they've got money to help support an organization, maybe they don't today. But I really love this report from Wealth Engine. I'll put the link in the comments as well. And we're going to unpack some of the data that I found very interesting and enlightening and encouraging in that report next Friday. So I'll see you all here on the 9th at 12:30 Eastern Time. If you've been ghosted or you've ghosted somebody and it's left like an icky feeling, shoot a comment in here. I'm sure we would all love to just like unpack a little bit our experiences of this ghosting phenomenon. So with that, I'm going to let you go for the rest of your afternoon. I hope you have a lovely Friday and a wonderful weekend, and I will see you back here at 12:30 Eastern Time to talk about the Millennial Giving Report next week. Thanks so much. See you then. Bye.